Breaking news out of the state of New York. You all remember the story of Peanut the Squirrel and Fred the Raccoon and how they were euthanized, killed, beheaded apparently, by the state of New York after being removed from the animal sanctuary in which they lived. Well, the story is getting more insane and arguably even worse than it could possibly be already. And that is, there is now discussion, apparently, that the owner of Peanut the Squirrel and Fred the Raccoon may be charged with, ready for this, illegally possessing an unlicensed firearm. Crazy. Wait to hear the story when we get back. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Boxes Down, a proud American gun owner, constitutional attorney, member of the United States Supreme Court Bar, and author of a new law review article in the Georgetown Journal of Law and Public Policy entitled Dangerous but Not Unusual, Mistakes Commonly Made by Courts in Second Amendment Litigation After the Bruen Case. Make sure you check out, it's about 65 pages. Anybody who's a historian, scholar, a lawyer, a litigator, anyone involved with Second Amendment litigations, you're definitely going to want to read this article in the Georgetown Journal of Law and Public Policy by yours truly. It will likely be cited in a bunch of cases down the road, but only time will tell. But check it out. A lot of good information in there. All right, folks. So you remember the story at the end of the campaign of President Trump out of New York State, where the Department of Environmental Conservation invaded and engaged in a search warrant and capture of social media stars Peanut the Squirrel and Fred the Raccoon, and they were both euthanized and apparently beheaded, although it's not totally confirmed because I don't think the owners have been able to get the animals back after this occurred. And the argument was that these animals were being unlawfully kept and they might have rabies, so they had to be captured to kill so they could check for rabies. There's a whole bunch of hooey that's going on here, but that's not the purpose of today's video, other than to say that this is such a hot story involving Peanut the Squirrel. And of course, the lesson is governmental overreach by administrative agencies, such as in this case, the New York Department of Environmental Conservation. At the federal level, it's the deep state. You have deep states at the state level as well. But now what's going on is there's now a discussion as to whether or not Peanut the Squirrel's owner, Mark Longo, may be charged with the unlawful possession of an unlicensed or unregistered firearm, an assault weapon. Now, it's a little unclear. I don't have a photo of the firearm that's at issue here, but as I have been able to put together from the reporting, during this search warrant that they effectuated that lasted literally like 5 hours of a search warrant for Peanut the Squirrel and Fred the Raccoon, by 6, that's right, no fewer than 6 law enforcement officers. Obviously, New York doesn't have violent criminals to worry about. They have to mess with this. So 6 law enforcement agents spend 5 or 6 hours doing a search warrant of Peanut the Squirrel's home, capture the squirrel, capture the raccoon, kill them, and then in the context of the search, they apparently uncover a firearm. Now, the firearm has been described in various articles as a firearm with a barrel that is shorter than a rifle, that doesn't have a stock, which seems to be not a rifle because under New York state law, a rifle is a firearm that is capable of being held up to the shoulder and fired, and it's intended to be held against the shoulder and fired. And because this did not have a shoulder stock, according to the reporting, it doesn't sound to me as if that's a rifle. But it does talk about how it might be an assault weapon as defined by New York state law, because it's a semi-automatic pistol with the ability to accept a detachable magazine, and that the magazine well, if you will, is outside of the pistol grip. As you know, with a basic 9mm firearm, a magazine well where you stick the magazine is usually in the pistol grip. But apparently, according to what the report is, the AR magwell, or this magwell of this particular gun, was outside the pistol grip. So it's possible this is technically a handgun, but falls into the definition of assault weapon under New York state law. Nevertheless, the question is, will New York State indict Mr. Mark Longo for possessing an unregistered or a unlicensed firearm, because they indicate that he did not have a license for this firearm. Now, just to step back, this gets into an example where the entire Constitution and the entire Bill of Rights protects all Americans, including gun owners. We often spend most of our time here talking about the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, but there are other constitutional guarantees that protect gun owners and all Americans, including, for example, the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which is a law or a constitutional right that prevents government from engaging in unlawful warrantless searches and seizures, for example. So here there was a warrant supposedly to capture the squirrel and the raccoon, obviously menaces to society, right? They're like gangsters in the animal world, apparently, so you had to send in 6 officers to do this. And in the context of effectuating that warrant, they saw this firearm. Now, here's the interesting question. If I walk into your home pursuant to a lawful search warrant, and as I walk into your home to effectuate the lawful search warrant or an arrest warrant, I look down and I see a whole pile of cocaine. Well, yeah, that's kind of evidence that there's a crime there because, hey, there's a pile of cocaine there. Cocaine's not legal anywhere in America, so that's probably strong evidence that there's a crime. And now I can seize that evidence and maybe charge you with a drug crime. Or if I walk into a home and I see a bunch of people tied up and they look like they're being kidnapped, again, I may have my warrant may be for I got to check out some other issue like do you have a scary Peanut the Squirrel in your home? That may be what the warrant's for. But if I see a obvious crime being committed or something that could be a crime or is a crime, I'm allowed to take that evidence, and that is acceptable and legal under the Fourth Amendment. Now, what my question is, if I walk into Peanut the Squirrel's home and I just see in the corner or the closet or something an unloaded firearm, why am I presuming that's unlawful? Why am I presuming that Mr. Longo did not have a license? Why would I presume that that gun was not registered? Do you see what I'm saying? When I see that, why is that giving me a basis to go get another search warrant or a seizure warrant or anything at all in America? So with these kinds of issues, one wonders whether or not the state will indict and charge Mr. Longo with the possession of an unregistered firearm or an unlicensed firearm. I don't know. But I will tell you this, I'm now going to make you the smartest person in the room and force you to think about hard decisions. Obviously, we're on the side of Mark Longo and his wife, and we oppose this government overreach, which is terrible. That's true. So we certainly don't want to compound the pain and suffering of this family and the Peanut's Freedom Farm Animal Sanctuary. Because keep in mind that Peanut and Fred were the star celebrities on social media for this animal sanctuary that has like 400 animals they take care of in New York. So we don't want to screw this up in any respect. Of course not. So from an American human point of view, we certainly don't want any more suffering to be given to or brought upon that family or that sanctuary. That would be wrong. Now, to be an excellent lawyer and a high-end lawyer, you have to take things that are inextricably linked and delink them in your mind. Hear what I just said? To be an excellent lawyer, I tell my students and people that I've advised and my young associates over the years, to be an excellent lawyer at the top of your profession, you have to take things that are inextricably linked and delink them in your mind and analyze them separately. That's one of the keys of taking your profession to the next level. So while my heart and my common sense and my humanity is cheering for Mr. Longo and his family to not be charged, on the other hand, and this is the lawyer in me, this is the strategy thinking, this is Mark the strategist for the Second Amendment thinking, I'm also thinking the following. If New York State is so insane and stupid and overreaching to charge this man, given this fact pattern and this notoriety and what's just gone on there, if New York is so dumb to charge Mr. Longo with a gun-related crime, a malum prohibitum, victimless crime associated with their quote-unquote assault weapon law in New York State, the Second Amendment strategist part of my brain says, bring it on. Because you're literally, even though you're in New York, which is a terrible state for guns, you're going to have the most sympathetic anti-government case you can imagine being brought before judges. And if there's ever a shot to knock out some of these anti-gun laws that are insane in the state of New York, in New York State court, It's a situation or scenario or fact pattern like this where you have a highly sympathetic set of facts in favor of freedom up against the oppressive government indictment by a district attorney and these law enforcement agents for DEC. So again, my human side says, I absolutely don't want anything bad to happen to this family. Enough is enough. But the strategy side, as a thinker, does think, well, if we're ever going to have a chance to whack these laws and knock them out, this is not a terrible fact pattern to do it, because even the anti-gun judges are going to be looking at this case and looking at the district attorney and be like, are you kidding me? Did you literally just bring this charge to me in New York State, given what you just did to this animal sanctuary, to this family, to these animals, and you want to charge this guy now and compound the error? Are you crazy? I could see a lot of judges in New York that are even the liberal anti-gun judges looking at the district attorney with a, let's just say, askance and looking for a way to throw the government, in that particular case, under the bus. And that could give rise to some favorable precedent in favor of the Second Amendment. But again, I'm not in charge there. I'm just going to report. I'm just telling you how I think about this. And at the end of the day, of course, what happened there is terrible. And I hope that that family can make a lot of money off suing New York. Suing New York for what happened here is pathetic and terrible. And as I've said before, the history of the future has yet to be written. So we'll see what happens. All right, folks, so there you have it. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure you follow me on X at 4Boxes Diner. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and show it to your friends. And feel free to share it or post it where you feel free and where you can do so to spread the word. And I look forward to talking to you again very soon here at the 4Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.